Hello there, and welcome to Dharma Science Radio. My name is Ian, and today we'll be talking about conditioning.
And the dilemma that exists for the projector is that the projector child, who is deeply disadvantaged as a child, who comes into the world with parents that want them to be manifestors, that comes into a world that overloads them, that turns them into hyperactive beings for the rest of their lives, that drives them constantly to be something that's not, that rewires their metabolism. I mean, projectors go through hell as children because they're not recognized. And you see, people have an odd idea about them. They are very, very, very complex. In the book that you've been given, if you look at page 10, 11, 12, 13, those 4 pages, there are different illustrations of different kinds of projectors. I mean, in my own calculation, there's probably 7 distinct kinds of projectors. There's many different variations. They're more complex than any other type. You can have a projector that only has 2 centers defined. You can have a projector that has 8 centers defined. You can't just look at a chart and see automatically sometimes that it's a projector. It can be quite something. They're very, very complex beings. Very complex.
So projectors are very complicated. They are very complex beings, and from childhood, the depth of the conditioning they receive is absolutely extraordinary. You know, the not-self theme for survival of this undefined sacral center is to not know when enough is enough. And to me, in my mind, that is one of the most profound things in this life, to not know when to quit, to not know when to give up, to not know when to shift gears into a different thing, and to instead push it too far, go way too far, until you can't possibly go any farther, and then crash. Since the projector does not have a fixed relationship with life force energy, their parents and the world around them tends to condition them towards using that energy that they're borrowing from others until they're exhausted. Most of us are conditioned to go out there and make it happen, to make up our mind, to decide, and then to do the thing, to manifest our reality, you know? And yet it's not the way for these projector children, or any projector for that matter. See, the nature of a projector, as I've told you before, is the nature of a projector is seeing into the magnetic monopole that holds together the entire hologram of reality itself. The projector sees into the mechanics of reality with a sharpness that no other type can compare. And there's no point to compare and contrast. The point is simply to develop unique difference and to share it, to embody it, to empower it, and to support it. So Ra mentioned there that there are 7 different types of projectors by his estimation, and I'm not sure what he's talking about. I know that there are emotional projectors, there are splenic projectors, there are ego-projected projectors, there are self-projected projectors, and lastly, there are mental or environmental projectors. These are the only projectors I personally know about, at least right now at this moment. Perhaps there's something different in his perspective between ajna to throat definition only projector and head to ajna or head ajna throat projectors. For me, they're all environmental projectors here to develop the mental conceptual environment in which we live at such a beautiful nuance that I always appreciate interacting with an environmental projector because they're such interesting characters. And they have to listen to their own voice. And it's a really interesting thing, the nature of timing and how each person's inner authority differs. And like he said, you could have 8 centers defined out of the 9, or you could only have 2 defined out of the 9. There's a deep complexity in what it means to be a projector, and each one has the capacity to recognize something different. And that's extraordinary.
But it all comes back to the same thing, and it comes back to one thing and one thing only. If you cannot master your world, if you cannot master your ability to grasp and understand and recognize the other, then there's something essential that's always going to be missing in your life that is going to destroy your life, is that you do not have the discernment to be able to recognize who belongs in your life. Who belongs in your life? When you're walking around as a not-self projector with your plug in your hand, you plug into anything. Anything. And your not-self mind will rationalize for you that this is good and this is okay and it's all right, and just because it's lousy, you'll get out of it, and blah, 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 and all that stuff. And it is this mindless plugging into the other that is so destructive to the projector, because you have to live off their frequency. See, when I see the not-self human being walking around, I don't look for features. I don't look for the expression on their face. I don't need to. I just feel the aura brush by. And you can feel the dysfunction in the aura. Projectors, for me, so obviously have dysfunction in their aura. The frequency's wrong. And you see, they have no way of stabilizing their own frequency, because the frequency is established through their meeting with the other.
This nature of having one's frequency determined by the nature of their meeting with the other. Personally, I find this extremely profound. As somebody with all 4 of my motors defined together, my body has a powerful autopilot. My body does what it does, and I trust it. However, for somebody with an undefined sacral center, at the very least, the depth of conditioning that is available to them, how deeply powerful the conditioning can be to not know when enough is enough. And to be surrounded by other people who have their expectations, who have their own problems they're dealing with, and how they project it onto you, and then naturally, since you don't know when enough is enough, you take it on as if it's your own, and all kinds of things come out of that, to say the least. Not all of which is the most pleasant, you know. You see, this sacral center determines the movement of life force, energy on this planet. Generators were quite literally like worker bees moving around for Mother Earth, buzzing around, just doing our work. And so many of us are frustrated. And so if you're a projector born into the family of a frustrated generator, then you can see that frustration, and you can see maybe those moments when they have satisfaction and how things change in that time. You can feel it energetically on the subtle field, what it's like to be around a generator who's satisfied. Isn't it good? Doesn't it feel nice? You know, you can bring more generators to that field of satisfaction if you trust your inner authority. It's the only way to know who's correct for you.
You see, projectors and reflectors are very, very different in the way in which they deal with the concept of conditioning. They're different. You see, the projector, because it has a focused aura, is designed to be conditioned. It's designed to be conditioned, to get the energy. It doesn't mean it's designed to give up its authority, but it's designed to take in the conditioning. You need it. And so while you're focused on the other, you're taking in this deep conditioning. If the other is not correct, you know, think about your car. You know, and you got a nice brand new gasoline car, you go into the gas station and fill it up with diesel. Nice car. You know, you can put it in your living room and allow people to look at it through the window. It's not going to drive anymore. This is projectors. See, one of my favorite things to say to projectors is that when somebody walks into your life, imagine you'd have to eat them. No, I mean it, really. You'd have to eat them. You know, there's sort of some people that you look at and you think, wow, they're delicious. You know, I could eat that, you know? And there's some people that you would never put on a fork. Eh? I mean, never, ever, ever put on a fork. I mean, just the idea of it is so repellent, it's unbelievable. But you see, as a projector, you take everybody in a way that is so deep, that is so profound. You know, you are literally being, invaded, you know, against your will, in that sense, quote unquote. You're taking them in deeply, deeply than you take in a lover, deeply than, you know, I mean, this is the projector in the supermarket standing in line. You know, it's like you're in a gangbang movie. No joke, eh? You know, there's 8,000 people pumping you full of stuff. See, they recognize you. You know, they do.
What a powerful analogy right there, like the projector sitting around or being in a grocery store and being in line and being surrounded by other people, and simply how much energy is going into that projector from all the people around them. You know, I have a friend of mine who's a projector, and I remember we were driving down the road one day and he was talking about how energies he was picking up from people simply walking down the street. He could suddenly have some insight of personal revelation from this other person's drama show up in his life because he saw this other person, because he was around this other person. Especially receptive beings, right angle, tonal fixing beings with not strategic personalities who are picking up on all kinds of things. And so if you're a projector, be aware, pay attention, notice who's around you, because they're filling you with energy. Like Ross said, against your will or in alignment with your will, it doesn't matter. It's simply the mechanics of the aura, and it's not personal. As a projector, you take everything in very deeply. You take one person in at a time very deeply. Receptive beings, we take everything in all the way, and it's never forgotten. It's stored in here somewhere. And it takes life to pull it out from us. So remember, trust your strategy and authority. It's the only way to know how to make decisions correctly as yourself. And the fact that myself, as somebody different from you, can tell you about how to make decisions as yourself, to me, is profound and absurd. Like it's a total joke. How utterly disconnected we are from ourselves. That somebody like me has to come along and tell you about yourself so you can know how to be yourself. And then eventually you can forget about me because you can now go have fun living your life. That's the goal. That's the dream right here. I'm not special. I'm not important. No more than anyone else. And yet I've studied this knowledge deeply. You know, I've been practicing and studying for 7 years or so. And so it's a joy for me to share. And on that note, I'd like to say something about the energy projector. Because most projectors are not energy projectors. However, if you have a motor center defined, such as the ego, such as the solar plexus, such as the root center, if any of those 3 centers are defined and you are a projector, which means your sacral is undefined, then you are an energy projector. And they're all qualities of your energy that are consistent that you can learn about. Such as, for example, if you have the channel of struggle, the 2838 connecting the spleen with the root. This means that getting some exercise in your life will be very helpful for you. This means that being able to go to the sauna and sweating out the old salt that's been sitting in your body, and then eating some salty foods afterwards, this will really bring in some health to your system. Because when we have the root defined to the spleen, the ability to expel and get rid of old salt, and replace it with new, nourishing, clean, healthy salt. This is really important for the health and the refreshing awareness of this defined splenic stress adrenal system. Say, for example, this 2838 channel of struggle. And so if you have one of these motorized channels as a projector, you can keep in mind that you do have an energy resource available to you. The key is there is no fixed relationship with regeneration. There's a fixed energetic exchange with a motor, so the body moves. And yet without a fixed relationship to regenerate that energy, rest is very important. And it's not the rest of what your mind says, oh, I've done too much, or oh, I need to do more. It's the rest of the body, trusting in your unconscious design, trusting in what you really are, the life you're living, to live itself. That's what it's really all about, is guiding the energy towards its own natural completion, which is the path of least resistance, believe it or not. Notice it's not the path of zero resistance. It's the path of least resistance. This means minimum effective dosage. With the right amount of something, you can go real far. With the wrong amount of anything, you can't get anywhere. Just ask anybody who's put diesel into their gasoline vehicle.
If you have enjoyed the show and would like to learn more about how all of this applies specifically to you, then kindly refer to the link in this video's description, Private Consultation. Here, we can dive into all of the details together in a recorded call. May your signature vibration of satisfaction, success, peace, and surprise find you in a good way.